Imagine a wealthy woman, known for her generosity, who offers a homeless man a rare opportunity, a hot bath in her mansion. But when she discovers who he really is, the situation takes an unexpected and shocking turn. Who is this man and what secret is he hiding? Evelyn adjusted her silk scarf as she stepped out of the lavish gala, the night air a sharp contrast to the warmth of the ballroom. The charity event had been a resounding success, with laughter and clinking glasses echoing in her ears, but her heart felt heavy as she made her way to the car. She had spent the evening mingling with influential figures, discussing philanthropic efforts and future projects, all while wearing a smile that masked her inner turmoil. As she settled into the plush leather seat of her black SUV, she glanced out the window at the busy streets of the city. The lights twinkled like stars, illuminating the faces of those who navigated the cold night. Her driver, a silent guardian of her wealth, pulled away from the curb, and Evelyn felt a familiar pang of nostalgia strike her. She had once walked these streets, not as a woman of privilege, but as a girl who had to scrape by, dreaming of a better life. The laughter of her affluent friends faded into the background, replaced by the muffled sounds of the city. As they drove past a small park, her gaze fell upon a figure huddled beneath a tattered blanket on a bench. It was a homeless man, his thin body shivering against the biting wind. Evelyn's heart ached. She recalled her own struggles, the countless nights spent shivering in her small, cramped apartment, dreaming of a future far removed from hardship. A wave of compassion washed over her, and in that moment she made a decision that would change her life forever. "Stop the car," she instructed her driver, her voice firm yet soft. He looked at her through the rearview mirror, his brows furrowing in confusion, but he complied, pulling over to the side of the road. Evelyn stepped out into the chilly night, the cold air hitting her like a splash of ice water. She walked towards the man, her heels clicking softly against the pavement. As she approached, he looked up, his eyes reflecting a mix of surprise and wariness. "Excuse me," she said gently, kneeling beside him. "Are you all right?" The man blinked, taken aback by her presence. "I'm fine," he muttered, pulling the blanket closer around his shoulders. His voice was gravelly, shaped by hardship and neglect. "You don't look fine," Evelyn replied, her eyes scanning his worn face. "You look cold and hungry. Please let me help you." "Help?" he echoed, skepticism lacing his tone. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," she assured him, feeling the weight of his mistrust. "I'm just a woman who cares. I have some food in my car. You can have it." He hesitated, his expression unreadable. "Why would you want to do that?" "Because I can," she answered, her heart swelling with a mixture of empathy and determination. "And because I remember what it's like to struggle. Just let me help." Finally, he sighed and nodded, the slightest hint of gratitude flickering in his eyes. "All right then, I could use something to eat." Evelyn smiled, relief flooding through her. She returned to the SUV and grabbed a couple of sandwiches and a thermos of hot soup. She also retrieved a warm blanket from the back seat, feeling a sense of purpose as she approached him again. "Here," she said, handing him the food and the blanket. "It's not much, but it's something." He accepted the offering, his fingers brushing against hers for a brief moment. "Thanks," he murmured, his voice softer now. "Most people just ignore me." "I know how that feels," she replied, her gaze steady on his. "But everyone deserves kindness, no matter their circumstances." As he took a bite of the sandwich, Evelyn watched him closely. There was something about the way he held himself, a quiet resilience in his demeanor despite the dirt and weariness etched upon his face. "What's your name?" she asked, curiosity bubbling up inside her. "Marcus," he replied, chewing thoughtfully. "And you?" "Evelyn," she said, a smile playing on her lips. "I run a business in the city. But tonight, I'm just a person trying to make a difference, even if it's in a small way." "Evelyn, huh?" Marcus raised an eyebrow, his interest piqued. "I've heard that name before. You're involved in a lot of charity work, right?" She nodded, surprised that he knew of her. "Yes, I try to give back whenever I can." "Good for you," he said, his voice tinged with a mixture of admiration and skepticism. "But does it really make a difference?" Evelyn paused, the question cutting deeper than she expected. "I hope so." "I believe it does," she replied, her voice unwavering. "But sometimes, it feels like a drop in an ocean of need." "Maybe it is," Marcus said, his eyes narrowing slightly. "But every drop counts. You just have to find the right way to make waves." Evelyn felt a spark of connection ignite between them, a bond formed over shared experiences, however different their paths had been. "You're wise for someone living on the streets," she remarked, intrigued by his perspective. "Life teaches you lessons even when the lessons are harsh," he said, his gaze drifting to the darkened skyline. "I used to have dreams, you know. I wanted to be an artist." "An artist?" she echoed, surprised. "What happened?" He shrugged, the weight of his past settling heavily on his shoulders. "Life happened. Dreams don't mean much when you're battling survival every day." "But you can still paint," Evelyn insisted, her heart aching for him. "There's still time to pursue your passion." He looked at her, a flicker of hope crossing his tired features. "You really believe that?" "I do," she said earnestly. "Art has the power to transform lives. It speaks when words fail." Marcus studied her for a moment, and Evelyn felt the vulnerability in the air between them. "Maybe I'll paint again someday," he said slowly, "but I don't know if I can." "Why not?" she pressed gently, wanting to encourage him. "Because I'm afraid," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Afraid of failing again. Afraid of being hurt. Evelyn's heart ached for him, resonating with his fears. We all have fears, Marcus. It's how we face them that defines us. You could start small just for yourself. Create something that speaks to your heart. He nodded slowly, the idea swirling in his mind. You really think I have it in me? I do, she replied with conviction. I see a spark in you, a creativity waiting to be unleashed. For a moment, they fell into a comfortable silence, each lost in their thoughts. Evelyn found herself captivated by this man, a stranger who had become a kindred spirit in such a short time. There was an unexpected connection forming between them, one that transcended their vastly different worlds. Evelyn, Marcus said suddenly, breaking the silence, why did you really stop to help me tonight? Because I wanted to, she answered honestly, and because I couldn't walk away knowing someone was suffering. I've been there before, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Most people wouldn't care, he replied, his tone thoughtful. You're different. Maybe I am, she said with a small smile. Or maybe I just wish someone had helped me when I needed it most. As they continued to talk, the city around them faded into the background. For the first time in a long while, Evelyn felt alive, her heart swelling with a sense of purpose. In this chance encounter with Marcus, she discovered not just a man in need, but a reflection of her own soul, raw, vulnerable, and yearning for connection. And as the night deepened, she knew their paths had crossed for a reason, setting the stage for a story that was only just beginning. Evelyn stood at the threshold of her lavish home, the warmth spilling out into the crisp night air. The marble floors gleamed under the soft glow of elegant chandeliers, and the scent of freshly baked bread wafted through the air, mixing with the faint aroma of lavender from her carefully cultivated garden. As she turned to look back at Marcus, who lingered hesitantly at her doorstep, a sense of urgency welled within her. She had seen the flicker of hope in his eyes earlier, and she wanted to nurture it. Come in, she said softly, her voice inviting yet firm. You're safe here. Marcus stepped inside, his eyes widening as he took in the opulence surrounding him. He was used to the cold, hard ground and the muted colors of the streets. The interior of Evelyn's home was a stark contrast, a kaleidoscope of colors and textures that dazzled him. He felt like an intruder in a world that was never meant for him. Wow, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. This is incredible. Evelyn smiled, a gentle warmth spreading through her chest. It's just a house, Marcus, but it can be a home for tonight. She gestured toward the hallway. The bathroom is down that way. There are towels in the cabinet. Take your time. Marcus nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. As he walked toward the bathroom, he felt a strange mix of excitement and trepidation. The sound of the shower cascading down felt foreign yet comforting. He stepped under the hot water, allowing it to wash away the grime and the weight of his past. Each droplet felt like a small rebirth, and for the first time in years he could breathe freely. Meanwhile, Evelyn leaned against the kitchen counter, a steaming cup of tea cradled in her hands. She gazed out of the window, the night sky littered with stars. The quietude of the moment enveloped her, but her thoughts drifted to Marcus. She could hardly comprehend the connection they had formed in such a short time. It was as if he saw through the walls she had built around herself, the barriers she maintained to protect her heart from the superficiality of her world. Reflections of her life began to swirl in her mind. The charity galas, the endless networking, the facade of happiness she wore like a mask. None of it felt fulfilling anymore. She had poured herself into philanthropy, convinced that it would bring her joy, yet the emptiness lingered like a persistent shadow. What am I doing with my life? She murmured to herself, her brow furrowing. Suddenly, the sound of the bathroom door creaking open pulled her from her thoughts. Marcus emerged, his hair slicked back, his face clean and radiant. He wore a pair of her brother's old sweatpants and a simple t-shirt that hung loosely on his frame. The transformation was remarkable, and Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. Wow, she repeated, this time with genuine admiration. You look different. Marcus chuckled, a hint of self-deprecation in his tone. I feel different. I can't remember the last time I had a proper shower. Come, she said, motioning for him to join her at the dining table. I made us some dinner. It's nothing fancy, but it's warm. As they sat down, the atmosphere shifted. The clinking of cutlery filled the silence, and the air was thick with unspoken words. Evelyn watched Marcus as he took a tentative bite of the food, his eyes closing momentarily in bliss. This is amazing, he said, sincerity lacing his words. Thank you for this. Evelyn smiled, a blush creeping up her cheeks. It's just pasta. I'm glad you like it. The conversation flowed easily, each question peeling back layers of their lives, revealing shared experiences and dreams. Marcus spoke of his passion for art, his voice tinged with nostalgia. I used to paint every day, he confessed, his fingers absent-mindedly tracing the rim of his glass. It was my escape. I could create worlds where I felt alive. What happened? Evelyn asked gently, her curiosity piqued. He hesitated, the weight of the past hanging heavily in the air. Life happened, I guess. I lost everything. My family, my friends. It all slipped away after a betrayal. The final word left his lips like a bitter taste, and he looked away as if the memory was too painful to bear. Evelyn felt a pang of empathy, understanding that they both carried the scars of their pasts. I know what it feels like to lose everything, she said quietly, her gaze unwavering. I wasn't always this successful. I had to fight for every step. Marcus looked up, intrigued. Really? I can't picture you struggling. It's true, she insisted, her tone earnest. I grew up in a neighborhood where opportunities were scarce. I promised myself that I would change my circumstances, but sometimes I wonder if I lost a part of myself in the process. Their gazes locked, and in that moment, the air crackled with an unspoken understanding. They were two souls navigating through the wreckage of their lives, seeking solace in one another's company. Maybe we can help each other, Marcus suggested, hope glimmering in his eyes. You have a lot to offer the world, and I have dreams that need a spark. Perhaps you can be that spark. Evelyn chuckled softly, the warmth of the moment washing over her. And what do you think I need? He leaned forward, sincerity etched on his face. Someone to remind me that life can be beautiful again. Someone to believe in me. A silence fell over them, heavy with possibility. Evelyn felt her heart race, the line between their worlds blurring with each shared glance. But reality crashed down on her like a wave, bringing with it the chilling reminder of their differences. Evelyn, I know this sounds crazy, he interrupted, his tone earnest, but I feel like I can trust you, and I want to be more than just a charity case. She took a deep breath, wrestling with her feelings. I want to help you, but I'm scared too. This world we live in, it's complicated. Marcus nodded slowly, understanding her hesitation. I get it, but maybe we can take it one step at a time. Evelyn's heart fluttered at the thought of forging a connection that transcended their social statuses. But doubt lingered like a shadow, whispering reminders of the judgments she would face. One step at a time, she echoed, her voice a mixture of hope and caution. They spent the rest of the evening talking, laughter spilling from their lips, weaving a tapestry of shared dreams and aspirations. But deep down, Evelyn knew that the path ahead would not be easy. The world outside her doors was ruthless, and their budding friendship would be scrutinized by those who could never understand the depth of their connection. As the night wore on and the stars twinkled brightly above, both Marcus and Evelyn felt the stirrings of something profound between them, a bond that could challenge the very foundations of their lives, if only they dared to embrace it. Evelyn had never expected that a simple act of kindness would lead to such an intense friendship, but the days spent with Marcus were unlike any she had experienced before. Each morning, she would wake to the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, a scent that now filled her lavish home with warmth and comfort. Marcus had taken to helping her around the house, tending to odd jobs that her busy lifestyle often left neglected. They would share laughter and stories over breakfast, their connection deepening with each passing moment. One particular afternoon, as the sun cast a golden hue across her living room, Evelyn watched Marcus paint. He had found an old canvas in her garage, and with the brushes she had bought for her niece, he transformed that blank surface into a vibrant explosion of color. She couldn't help but marvel at how effortlessly the paint flowed from his brush, the strokes filled with passion and raw emotion. Marcus, it's beautiful, Evelyn said, her voice soft with awe. She leaned closer to get a better look, captivated by the way he had captured a city skyline intertwined with nature, a juxtaposition of chaos and tranquility. Thank you, he replied, not taking his eyes off the canvas. I've always believed in showing the world what lies beneath the surface. People often don't see the beauty hiding behind the chaos. Evelyn felt a pang in her chest at his words. They resonated with her, echoing her own struggles of navigating a world that often felt superficial. Is that what you want to do? Show people your art? She asked gently. Marcus paused, his brush hovering over the canvas. I used to dream of it, he admitted, his voice slightly strained. I had my work exhibited in galleries. I thought I could make a difference through my art, but life happened and I lost everything. He sighed, the weight of his past hanging heavily in the air. What happened? Evelyn prodded, sensing the pain behind his words. He set the brush down and turned to face her, vulnerability etched across his features. A betrayal. Someone I trusted took advantage of my dreams, and when I needed them the most, they turned their back on me. It spiraled from there. Evelyn's heart ached for him. I can't imagine how that must have felt. She reached out and touched his arm gently. But you have a chance to start again. Your talent is incredible, Marcus. You can do this. He looked into her eyes, searching for sincerity. Do you really think so? Absolutely. You just need to believe in yourself again, she encouraged, a spark igniting within her as she spoke. For the first time, Marcus smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. Maybe I will. With your encouragement, I might just pick up where I left off. Days turned into weeks, and their bond continued to flourish, filled with shared dreams and whispered hopes. Yet, amidst their growing affection, Marcus held tightly to his secret. He had been hesitant to reveal the full extent of his past, fearing that it would change how Evelyn saw him. He knew he was not just a homeless man, he was a once promising artist whose life had been shattered. What would Evelyn think if she knew the truth about his past? One evening, as they sat on the balcony under a starlit sky, Evelyn turned to him, her expression earnest. "What if you had a chance to show your art again? A real chance?" Marcus felt the warmth of her gaze envelop him. "I'd love that, but I'm not sure if I'm ready. What if I fail?" "Failure is part of growth," she said, her voice steady. "You have to take the leap. I can help you. We could organize a small exhibition. Invite some of my friends, people who appreciate art. You deserve to be seen, Marcus." The idea sent a thrill through him, but fear lingered in the back of his mind. "Evelyn, what if they don't understand? What if they judge me for who I am now?" "Then let them," she replied firmly. "You can't control how others perceive you, but you can control how you perceive yourself. And I see an artist who has so much to offer." He felt a swell of hope mixed with trepidation. "You really believe in me?" "More than you know," she whispered, reaching for his hand. Their fingers entwined, and an electric charge passed between them, igniting something deep within. Just as the moment grew more intimate, Evelyn's phone rang, breaking the spell. She groaned, pulling her hand away. "I'm sorry. It's probably just one of my friends." Marcus watched as she answered the call, her demeanor shifting immediately. "Hello? Yes, I know. I'll be there soon," she said, her voice cool and composed, in stark contrast to the warmth they had just shared. Once she hung up, she turned back to him, but the light in her eyes had dimmed. "I have to go to a meeting. You know how it is." "Of course," he replied, masking the disappointment that threatened to spill over. "I understand." As she gathered her things, he felt a swell of emotions, fear, longing, and a hint of resentment. How could she leave him now, when they were on the verge of something extraordinary? "Evelyn, wait," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. She paused, looking back at him. "What is it? Just promise me you'll think about what I said earlier, about the exhibition. You believe in me, and that means more than you know. I want to take this chance." Her expression softened, but there was a flicker of hesitation there too. "I promise, Marcus. I'll think about it. Just give me some time." With that, she slipped out the door, leaving Marcus alone on the balcony, the night air heavy with unspoken words. He stared up at the stars, feeling their distant glow mirror the flicker of hope within him. But as the darkness surrounded him, so did the shadow of his past. He was a man with dreams buried beneath years of despair, and now, for the first time in a long while, he felt a flicker of ambition igniting within him. Yet, could he truly rise from the ashes of his former life? Would Evelyn still be there when he did? The questions hung in the air, unanswered, as he sat in silence, contemplating the delicate balance of their worlds, two lives intertwined, yet so vastly different. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions for both of them. Evelyn found herself torn between her growing affection for Marcus and her responsibilities in the high society she had always known. Each time they met, the air crackled with unspoken desires, and yet the weight of her social obligations loomed over her like a storm cloud. One evening, while they were preparing dinner together, Marcus looked over at her, a flicker of determination in his eyes. "I've been thinking about what you said, the exhibition. I want to do it, Evelyn. I want to show my art again." Evelyn's heart raced at his words. "Really? That's amazing. I'll help you organize it. We can set a date and invite everyone." "Will you invite your friends?" he asked, a hint of vulnerability creeping into his voice. "Of course," she replied, her heart aching at the thought of his fear. "I want them to see how incredible you are." As they prepared the meal, the kitchen filled with laughter and the aromas of their culinary creations. But beneath the surface, both were grappling with their emotions, each moment shared tinged with the knowledge that their worlds were on a collision course. And as they sat down to eat, the realization washed over Evelyn. Her life was about to change forever, and she could only hope it would be for the better. The city was alive with the hum of gossip and unspoken judgments, swirling like leaves caught in a relentless wind. Evelyn had become accustomed to the whispers behind her back, but this time the scrutiny felt sharper, more invasive. As she navigated her social circles, she could almost feel the weight of her friends' stares, their disapproval tangible in the air. They couldn't fathom why she had chosen to extend her hand to Marcus, the homeless man whose presence stirred a multitude of emotions within her. "Evelyn, are you sure about this?" Her friend Amanda's voice dripped with concern as they sat at a lavish brunch, the table adorned with expensive china and extravagant floral arrangements. "I mean, it's admirable that you want to help, but a homeless man? Isn't that a bit, well, reckless?" Evelyn forced a smile, taking a sip of her mimosa. "He's not just a homeless man, Amanda. He's an artist with dreams and potential. You have to see beyond the surface." "Exactly." Amanda scoffed, her perfectly manicured fingers swirling her drink. "That's just it. He's homeless. What do you really think people are going to say? You're risking your reputation for someone who doesn't belong in your world." Evelyn's heart sank. The words echoed in her mind, mingling with her own insecurities. She had always been the one to champion the underdog, to give back to the community, but Marcus was different. He was more than a project. He had become a friend, a confidant, a spark that ignited something deep within her. Yet, as her social circle began to learn of their growing friendship, the whispers intensified. Later that week, Evelyn found herself sitting across from Marcus in her elegantly furnished living room, the air thick with unspoken tension. He had been helping her with some home improvement projects, but now he paused, staring at her with a mix of confusion and hurt. "Evelyn, is everything okay?" he asked, his voice gentle but laced with worry. She looked away, her carefully constructed facade wavering. "It's just, people are talking, Marcus, about us, about me helping you." "What do you mean?" he pressed, leaning forward, his brow furrowing. "Is that such a bad thing?" "It's complicated," she sighed, running a hand through her hair. "You know how society works. They don't understand why I would want to befriend someone like you." "Someone like me?" Marcus's voice turned cold, and Evelyn could see the hurt flicker in his eyes. "You mean a homeless man? A man trying to find his way back?" "I didn't mean it like that." She reached out, placing a hand on his arm, but he flinched at her touch, pulling away. I don't want you to get hurt because of me. Or maybe you're scared of what they'll think," he shot back, his voice rising. "What if I'm not good enough for your world? Is that what you're saying?" Evelyn felt a pang of guilt. "No, that's not, because I don't want to be a charity case, Evelyn. I've been a lot of things in my life, but I've never been someone who needed pity." "Marcus, please just listen to me," she pleaded, tears brimming in her eyes. "I see so much in you, your talent, your passion, but it's hard for me. I've worked so hard to build a life, and now it feels like it's all crumbling because of this." Marcus leaned back, crossing his arms over his chest, a wall rising between them. "So, what are you saying? That you're going to distance yourself from me? Because that's what it sounds like." "I don't want to," she whispered, her voice breaking, "but I have to think about the repercussions. My career, my reputation. I'm so close to the top, and if this gets out, then maybe you should have thought about that before you took me in," he shot back, his voice filled with anger. "You can't play the hero and then pull away when it gets tough." Evelyn felt the heat of his words, each one a dagger to her heart. She covered her face with her hands, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on her. "I'm sorry," she murmured, feeling utterly defeated. "Sorry doesn't change anything," Marcus replied, his tone softer now, as if the fight had left him. "I don't want to be a burden to you. I'll go." "Marcus, no." Her voice rose, desperation creeping in. "Please don't say that. I want to help you. I need time to figure this out." "Time? You want time to figure out how to save your precious reputation?" he asked, the hurt evident in his voice. "I get it, Evelyn. I'm not blind to the fact that I don't belong in your world, but I thought maybe I could change that." Evelyn looked up, her heart racing. "You have changed things for me, Marcus. You've opened my eyes to a world I've tried to ignore. But this is real life, and it's messy. Real life." Marcus's voice trembled with emotion. "Real life is what I've been living every day since I lost everything. I've had to fight for every scrap, and now you want to push me away because it's inconvenient?" The room fell silent, tension hanging in the air like a thick fog. Evelyn could feel the chasm widening between them, the gulf fueled by societal expectations and her own fears. "I never wanted to push you away," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I don't know how to navigate this." "Maybe you should have thought about that before you invited me into your life," Marcus replied, his tone resigned. "I'll find my way. I always do." With that, he stood up, his silhouette stark against the opulence of her home. Evelyn felt as if the very walls were closing in on her, suffocating her with regret and sorrow. She wanted to reach out to stop him, but the words stuck in her throat. "Marcus, please," she called after him, but he was already gone, leaving her alone in the echoing silence of her lavish surroundings. For the next few days, the house felt emptier, the silence more pronounced. Evelyn moved through her life as if in a daze, her mind racing with thoughts of Marcus and the bond they had shared. She found herself wandering through the city, often passing by the places they had visited together, the coffee shop where they first laughed over their differences, the park where they had shared dreams under the stars. Each corner held memories, and each memory felt like a lifeline slipping through her fingers. But the whispers persisted. They followed her, taunting her as she attended social events, the laughter of her friends ringing hollow in her ears. "Did you hear about Evelyn? She's lost her mind, befriending a homeless man." Each comment stung, each laughter a reminder of the world she was trying to hold on to, yet felt increasingly alien to her. One evening, as she sat alone in her grand living room, the flicker of candlelight casting shadows on the walls, she picked up her phone, staring at Marcus's number. She hesitated, her heart racing. Would he even want to hear from her after how she had treated him? But she couldn't shake the feeling that she was losing something precious, something that had the potential to change both their lives. She dialed the number, her pulse quickening with each ring, but it went straight to voicemail. "Hey Marcus, it's me," she said, her voice trembling. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't mean to push you away. I've been thinking about everything, and I realize how much you mean to me. I need to talk to you. Please call me back." As she hung up, a sense of hope flickered within her, but it was quickly overshadowed by fear. What if he didn't want to return? What if their brief connection had been nothing more than a fleeting moment, lost to the judgments of the world around them? Days turned into weeks, and Evelyn's heart ached with the absence of Marcus. She tried to distract herself with work, pouring herself into her philanthropic projects. But every charitable event felt hollow without his laughter by her side. The vibrant colors of her life faded into a dull gray, and as she stood at the edge of her world, she realized she needed to make a choice. With a newfound determination, she decided to visit the park where they had shared so many moments. Perhaps he would return, or maybe she could find some semblance of him in the places he had once frequented. She would search for him, not just as a means to apologize, but to reclaim the part of herself that had begun to blossom in his presence. It was time to confront her fears, to face the judgments of society head-on. As she stepped out into the bustling city, the sun shining bright above her, Evelyn felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. She was ready to embrace whatever came next, to bridge the divide between their worlds, no matter how daunting it seemed. But as she wandered through the park, her heart raced with anticipation and trepidation. She couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning. Evelyn paced nervously in the grand ballroom, the air thick with anticipation and the scent of expensive perfume mingling with fine wine. The art show was a culmination of weeks of hard work, and she had poured her heart into promoting Marcus. She had transformed her lavish home into an intimate gallery filled with his breathtaking artwork, each piece telling a story of pain, resilience, and beauty. The crowd was a sea of familiar faces, friends, colleagues, and patrons of the arts, all gathered to celebrate the talent of a man who had once lived on the streets. "Evelyn, darling, you've outdone yourself," exclaimed Clara, one of her closest friends, with a glass of champagne in hand. Her eyes darted across the room, landing on Marcus, who stood by his artwork, nervously adjusting the collar of his borrowed shirt. "But tell me, who is this interesting fellow?" Clara's tone dripped with condescension, though she masked it with a saccharine smile. Evelyn's heart sank at the veiled judgment in Clara's voice. "His name is Marcus," she replied, forcing a smile. "He's an incredibly talented artist. You should really take the time to talk to him." "Right?" Clara said, arching an eyebrow. "A homeless artist? How charming." She turned away, clearly unimpressed, leaving Evelyn feeling a mix of anger and embarrassment. It was as if Clara's disdain was a reflection of the fears she had been wrestling with since the moment she invited Marcus into her life. As the evening progressed, Marcus's pieces garnered attention, and several guests approached him with genuine interest. Evelyn watched from a distance, pride swelling in her chest as he animatedly discussed his inspirations and the stories behind each painting. The warmth in Marcus's eyes illuminated the room, and for a moment, all of Evelyn's worries faded away. But as the art show continued, Evelyn noticed the whispers growing louder among her friends. Clara and her clique huddled together, casting furtive glances towards Marcus, their laughter piercing through the celebratory atmosphere. It was as if they were dissecting her decision to elevate someone from the streets, reducing him to mere gossip. "Evelyn, come here." Clara beckoned, her demeanor suddenly overly enthusiastic. "You simply must join us for a moment." With a sense of foreboding, Evelyn made her way over, her heart racing. "What's going on?" she asked, trying to maintain her composure. "Just discussing the unique decision you've made in your choice of guests," Clara said, her voice laced with sarcasm. "I mean, it's all very avant-garde of you." Evelyn felt her cheeks flush with anger. "Marcus is a brilliant artist. He deserves this opportunity, Clara. You should be celebrating his talent rather than mocking him." "Oh, come now, dear. It's not mocking if it's true. What will people think?" Clara's tone was light, but Evelyn could hear the underlying judgment. "Your reputation is at stake." The words cut deeper than Evelyn anticipated. She had always prided herself on being a woman of substance, someone who used her wealth for good. Yet, in that moment, she felt herself trapped between her past and the present, grappling with the weight of societal expectations. Meanwhile, Marcus stood a few feet away, his gaze fixed on a painting that had elicited both admiration and confusion. He could feel the tension in the air, the way the laughter around him turned brittle and sharp. Every time he caught a glimpse of Evelyn, a flicker of hope ignited within him, yet he couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider in her world. "Evelyn," he called softly, his voice barely audible above the chatter. She turned to him, and for a brief moment, their eyes locked, conveying an unspoken bond. But as he approached, the confidence that had filled him began to wane. He could see the discomfort written all over her face. "Are you enjoying the show?" she asked, forcing a smile. "Honestly," he replied, his voice tinged with vulnerability, "I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. Your friends seem uncertain about me." Evelyn sighed, her heart aching at his words. "They don't understand," she admitted, glancing over her shoulder at Clara, who was now whispering to another guest. "I thought they would embrace this, but they see me as a charity case," Marcus finished for her, his expression shifting from hopeful to hurt. "I thought this was about my art, Evelyn. I thought we were past that. I'm trying to make them see you for who you truly are, Marcus. You're not just a homeless man, you're a talented artist," she insisted, her voice rising slightly. "But it's hard when they're so set in their ways." "And what about you?" he challenged, stepping closer, his eyes searching hers. "Are you really okay with this?" "With me? The question hung heavy between them. Evelyn felt her heart race, torn between her feelings for him and the social pressures that loomed over her like a dark cloud. I want to be, but what? Marcus pressed, his voice low but firm. You're scared of losing your status, of what they'll think of you being with someone like me. It's not that simple, she shot back, frustration boiling over. I've worked hard to build my life, and I can't let this destroy everything I've accomplished. Marcus stepped back, hurt flashing across his face. So, you're willing to sacrifice my dreams for your reputation? He whispered, the disappointment palpable in his tone. I thought we had something real. We do. Evelyn started, but the words felt stuck in her throat. Instead, she watched as he turned away, hands clenched at his sides, the light in his eyes dimming. Marcus, wait, she called out, panic rising within her. But he was already walking away, the distance between them becoming a chasm filled with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. As the night wore on, Evelyn felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She watched Marcus mingle with the guests, his laughter forced and strained, and her heart ached for the connection they had shared. But the judgment of her friends was suffocating, and she couldn't help but feel trapped in a gilded cage of her own making. The evening drew to a close, and as the guests began to leave, Evelyn felt a sense of dread wash over her. She had wanted so desperately to share this part of her life with Marcus, to show him that she believed in him, but now it seemed as if she had failed him. Evelyn, Clara's voice broke through her thoughts, and she turned to face her friend. You really should reconsider the people you surround yourself with. This isn't the image you want to project. Evelyn opened her mouth to respond, but the words tangled in her throat. She felt an overwhelming wave of sadness wash over her as she realized just how deeply her world had become entangled in expectations and appearances. As the last of the guests filtered out, Evelyn stood alone in the gallery, surrounded by Marcus's artwork, each piece a reminder of the man who had touched her life in ways she had never imagined. She felt a profound sense of loss, knowing that she had let both him and herself down in the face of societal pressure. Leaving the gallery, she stepped out into the cool night air, her heart heavy with regret. What had begun as a night of celebration had turned into a painful reminder of the walls they had built around themselves. And as the city lights twinkled around her, Evelyn realized that the greatest art was not in the paintings that adorned her walls, but in the connections they had forged, connections that now seemed to slip through her fingers like sand. Evelyn awoke to the sound of silence, the kind that felt oppressive in its stillness. The morning light spilled through the sheer curtains, casting soft shadows across the room, but the warmth of the sun did little to chase away the chill in her heart. She reached for her phone, hoping against hope that Marcus had left a message, a sign that he was still in her life. But the screen remained dark and empty. It had been days since the art show, a night that had promised so much but had ended in heartbreak. As she lay there, memories of their time together flooded her mind, the laughter they had shared, the way his eyes lit up when he spoke about his art, and the palpable chemistry that had drawn them closer. But all of it now felt like a cruel reminder of what she had lost. The whispers of her friends still echoed in her ears, their judgment like barbed wire around her heart. She had let their opinions dictate her actions, pushing Marcus away when all he had wanted was her support. Determined to find him, Evelyn pulled herself from the bed, her mind racing with thoughts of where he might have gone. She dressed quickly, opting for a simple outfit that wouldn't draw attention, a stark contrast to the designer pieces she usually wore. She needed to blend in, to lose herself in the crowd as she retraced her steps through the city, looking for any sign of him. As she walked the familiar streets, her heart pounded with anxiety. The bustling city felt different now, every face a potential reminder of Marcus and the connection they had shared. She passed by the coffee shop where they had shared their first laughter over steaming cups, recalling how he had joked about needing a barista to make art with coffee foam. The memory made her smile, but the ache in her chest remained. After hours of searching, Evelyn found herself standing outside a shelter she had heard about but never thought she would visit. It was a modest building, its exterior worn and faded, much like the dreams of those who sought refuge within. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside, the scent of cleaning supplies and a hint of something cooking in the kitchen enveloping her. The atmosphere was heavy, filled with stories of struggle and survival. "Can I help you?" a woman at the front desk asked, her voice warm but cautious. "I'm looking for Marcus," Evelyn replied, her voice trembling slightly. "He used to be, well, he was a guest here." The woman's eyes softened as she nodded. "Marcus is here. He's been working on a project in the back. You can go see him if you'd like." With a surge of hope, Evelyn followed the woman down a narrow hallway, her heart racing with anticipation. As they approached a large room, the sound of brushes against canvas filled the air. The door was slightly ajar, and she pushed it open to reveal a vibrant mural taking shape on the wall. In the center, a phoenix rose from the ashes, its colors bright and bold, surrounded by smaller images of people helping each other, an embodiment of hope and resilience. Marcus stood before the mural, his brow furrowed in concentration, lost in the world he had created. He wore a paint-splattered shirt and faded jeans, his hair tousled, but he looked alive, passionate. Evelyn's heart swelled at the sight, but as his eyes met hers, the light that had once danced in them dimmed. "Evelyn," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've been looking for you," she admitted, stepping further into the room. "I missed you." He turned back to the mural, the tension radiating from him palpable. "I've been busy," he replied, his tone clipped. "Busy? You disappeared without a word." Evelyn felt her frustration bubbling to the surface. "I thought we had something real." Marcus sighed, placing the brush down. "Real? What does that even mean? You were right to push me away. I don't belong in your world." "Stop it," she pleaded, her voice rising slightly. "You're being ridiculous. You have so much talent and I want to help you. You deserve a chance to show the world what you can do." He turned to face her fully, his expression a mix of pain and anger. "You don't understand. I was once part of that world and I was cast out. I don't want to go back to that life, Evelyn. I'm trying to find my own path." "Then let me help you find it," she insisted, stepping closer. "This mural, it's incredible. You're inspiring others, Marcus. You're doing something that matters." Just as she reached out to touch his arm, the shelter manager entered, her expression serious. "Evelyn, I need to talk to you for a moment." Evelyn glanced at Marcus, who looked away, an impenetrable wall rising between them. "What is it?" she asked, her heart sinking. The manager hesitated, clearly weighing her words. "There's something you should know about Marcus. It's important." Evelyn's stomach twisted with dread. "What do you mean?" "Marcus isn't just a homeless man," the manager said carefully. "He's the son of Arthur Hale, a respected art dealer. He was disowned after his father learned about the betrayal that led to his downfall." Evelyn's breath caught in her throat as the revelation hit her like a cold wave. She turned to Marcus, wide-eyed. "Is that true?" He looked up, his expression a mix of defiance and vulnerability. "I didn't want to tell you. I thought you would see me differently." "I don't care about your past," she said, her voice shaking. "I care about you, who you are now." "But do you really? Or are you just trying to save face?" He shot back, his pain surfacing. "You're from that world, Evelyn. You know how it works. Once you find out who I am, you'll think of me as some sort of project, something to fix." "No," she cried, tears brimming in her eyes. "I love you, Marcus. I want to be with you regardless of where you come from." He stepped back, shaking his head. "Love? You don't even know what that means. You're afraid of what your friends will think. You're afraid of losing your status." Evelyn felt the weight of his words, each one striking her like a blow. It was true, she had let societal expectations dictate her actions, and that fear had cost her dearly. "I was wrong," she admitted, her voice breaking. "I let them get to me, but I can't lose you. Not like this." The silence that followed was deafening, filled with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. Marcus turned back to his mural, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "I can't be what you want, Evelyn. I'm just a man trying to find his way after everything fell apart." Evelyn's heart shattered at the sight of the man she loved retreating into himself. "You don't have to do this alone," she said softly. "Let me help you. I want to support you, to be there for you." But Marcus simply shook his head, the distance between them feeling insurmountable. "Sometimes the hardest thing is to let go," he replied, his voice heavy with sorrow. "And I think that's what we both need to do." As Evelyn stood there, the weight of his words crashing down on her, she realized the truth. They were both trapped by their pasts, by the choices they had made and the paths they had taken. The connection they had shared was still alive, but the world around them had changed irrevocably. With a heavy heart, she turned and walked away, each step echoing the loss of the future they could have had together. As she stepped out of the shelter, the bustling city felt even more isolating, a stark reminder of the love that had slipped through her fingers. In that moment, Evelyn understood that sometimes, love alone isn't enough to bridge the chasms created by fear and betrayal. And as she wandered through the streets, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were both shattered souls, left to pick up the pieces in a world that often felt unforgiving.